Hey everybody, Brad Stevens here, founder and CEO at Outsource Access at the IFA in 2026, and love popping around some of the suppliers that I know and relationships I've built, and Raph I'll talk to here at EZee Assist. We met actually the first conference I came to in the franchising space. It's been awesome to see their growth, but just this leadership and scaling series in franchising, and so people that are committed to helping franchisees and franchisors scale. As you know, at Outsource Access, that's our commitment, that's our tagline with our staff, supporting franchisors and franchisees with talented staff out of the Philippines. And Raph and what they built here with AI, with EZee Assist, and I'll do the light version of it, is ultimately you get all these feedback that's coming from franchisees and challenges they're navigating. It tends to be a burden a lot of times on the franchisors to kind of be able to respond and know how to respond and have a proper repository. So they built some incredible technology that allows franchisees to get the information that they need at scale, right, quickly. And they've got a new Agentic thing, which he'll talk about, that they've been releasing. So after I've bastardized it, I'll allow you to kind of give some feedback on it.
Yeah, not at all, Brad. First of all, thank you for having me. It's always so fun to see you and collaborate at all of these events. So appreciate the opportunity to be on this, but you did a wonderful job. At the core of it, what we're doing is scaling support at franchise systems, right?
That's a much easier way to say it.
It is such a pain point because the franchisors are in the business of scaling, right?
Yeah.
We create these wonderful clones of ourselves where we build the process, build the technology stack, we bring on the right people, but as you add units, how do you do that at scale? It's an expensive proposition and one that often breaks down because of tool stack that scales, but it's a lot of clutter. And people is an expensive way to scale, especially when 70% of the time that the very talented people are spent on repetitive tasks that they have to do, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we're focused on. We want to remove all of that manual repetitive work to free them up to do three things, right? One is instant support for the franchisee, which then enables the franchise or the FPCs, the ops support team, etc., freeing them up to focus on what matters, which is coaching. That leads me to the second one, which is growth coaching, right? How do we pick up all of the data points from across this valuable tech stack that the franchisors put together, which currently is fragmented, right? You have metrics in HubSpot, you're using Mindbody and ServiceMinder, you might have a SharePoint. It's fragmented.
Like a patchwork quilt, right? A lot of times, what it looks like.
Exactly that. So now,
and the older the brand, the bigger the patchwork quilt.
Exactly, and the bigger the volume of the data that you have to kind of sift through. But there's magic in that data, so we help bring all of that out to coach franchisees from a unit level perspective, right? KPI driven, data driven, etc. Fundamentally, the last point is pain-free compliance. There's so much compliance work that's just manual today. It's needed because you need brand consistency, you need franchisees to follow what matters for their own success, but it's manual hours chasing franchisees, it's taking them away from their core business, and it's taking talent away from what matters. So we're building workflow automations, or giving actually the franchisor the toolkit to build those workflow automations to automate away some of those manual tasks.
So as far as the data they're getting, right? So as you can imagine, those are three fine points, right? That are all kind of related to what the whole objective of, like you said, the whole goal of franchising is to scale and to make this efficient for everyone. As far as getting that data, right? As far as the initial pain points that they know their franchisees, so that, how do they feed the machine sort of initially? I mean, with all, I guess, the repository of questions or issues they typically get is kind of initially, but then it's learning ongoing. So as franchisees keep asking more questions about different things, right? It's continuing to learn, so it can then be educated to then spit back the answer to them, right?
Yeah, but what's very interesting is we took a different thesis to this, right? So for decades, the thesis has been feeding it in. Where we would build a data lake, where we would build a data warehouse, and then you can extract value. We actually flipped the script there a little bit. We said, look, there's all of this data that's in all of the tools, and for good reason. Let's go to source and actually pull that data. We deeply integrate into the entire tech stack. We built over 250 integrations, massively fragmented tech stack, where we go directly into the CRM, into the FMS, into the BI tool, where you don't have to move the content for the AI to actually have the value. And why that's important is the data is really hard to manage in a data lake.
Yeah.
Right? It's one thing to move it, but it's constantly changing. Your variables are changing, your labels are changing. So now we're like, let's incrementally scrape what's happening in the actual toolkit, so it's always up to date from source.
So dynamically pulling it, right? And so that's one of the challenges, like, all right, we got to aggregate all the data and go dump it, and then we got to continually update that data lake, right? So they can pull from it. So you've dynamically created kind of, fingers into all the different like platforms, so you can dynamically pull it at any given time, which is, wow, that's
exactly that. And it's not just pull now, it's push too. So we
back and forth.
Using MCP level integrations, building on standard APIs.
What does MCP mean?
So MCP is Model Context Protocol.
For all the acronym free people out there.
No, and I'm guilty of doing that as well, so thank you for asking that.
What is the model?
model context protocol.
Model
It's
context protocol.
It's a new way to talk, for tech systems to talk to each other. We're all familiar with APIs, which give us some connectivity into data and fields within tech platforms. MCP normalizes that because a field within a HubSpot might be different from a field within Mindbody. APIs don't naturally talk to each other like that.
Yeah.
MCPs let you normalize that to say, okay, I understand that a lead here means a lead here, even if it's called different things, right? Wow. So we're able to now understand all of that, and franchisees can push data into it. So add this lead for me in HubSpot, and it just goes, does it. So our whole goal is, look, we want to make the experience frictionless for franchisees, right? The biggest thing is they're busy running their business, and for good reason. They don't have the time to go do the things in the tech stack, but the tech stack is really valuable, so we want to drive engagement throughout the tech stack through our interface.
Wow, I'm learning so much now. Even since we chatted last, there's a lot of advancements. I didn't realize that as far as, I didn't even know that new MCP was in, because being able to do the matching of the fields and getting to layer, right? But now it's able to dynamically know what's what. Exactly. So it's much more fluid and more effective in the process.
Absolutely.
And ultimately, right, it's about, it's like the same thing in my business, right? As far as like, when we take people off people's plates, right? And we're starting, support, from a VA standpoint, but the cultural impact, right? When you got employees that can now walk in and do the stuff they love doing and live in the genius zone, so you go to a franchisor and all of a sudden, Jane, who's in the process of having to manually do all these things and so forth, you're elevating people to their highest and best use, absolutely, right? Makes them happier employees, more effective, for the franchisees in the process. So
absolutely. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
No, and I love that about what you do, Brad, because again, you are freeing up your resources from all of that, the process to really do what matters, and that drives culture, right? I think that's so important, especially in outsourced setups like this. If all they're doing is manual tasks, it's repetitive work, and they don't feel like they're adding value, the culture's not great, and there's a lot of attrition. I think the way y'all are doing it is phenomenal because you're building a culture around the team that gets augmented onto brands that you serve. So kudos on doing that.
I appreciate it. Culture at the end of the day, the old cliches, right? Culture eats strategy for lunch, and it does. It doesn't matter what you're doing if you don't, the people involved, and if you don't have the right culture and people feel aligned and connected. And so, we're proud to have the only magazine in the Philippines kind of showcase our employees. But we love learning like technology like this because ultimately it's going to be the human plus the AI technology tools, together, in a lot of ways. And so, software like this is part of like we plug our teams into to kind of understand and help support, with brands that kind of bring it in. And give a preview, I guess, on some of the agentic stuff that's coming down the pike.
Yeah, look, the agentic stuff is exciting because what we're building is the toolkit that allows you to build the workflows, right? So we're not going to go and say there's this workflow is better than this. That really depends on the brand.
Yeah.
What the brand's key issues are, we want them to build those workflows. So by building the integrations into all of the tech stack and allowing the two-way flow, we're building what's called a workflow builder, right? Gives a franchisor autonomy to go and say, well, compliance is my top of mind issue. I'm going to build a workflow that automates that piece of it. Inventory is my issue, so I'm going to build that. Or if it's unit level profitability and you want to track KPIs and do growth coaching, that's the one you build. So we're building the toolkit that allows them to build any workflow that they can essentially dream up through that tech stack.
I know brand compliance will be a big one. Sitting at these thought leadership roundtables, that's one of the biggest number one things is like, you get all these franchisees and they got a playbook they're supposed to be, following. Some of them have better playbooks than others in terms of how they're structured, but then, people deviate, right? You don't have the compliance that you need. So being able to kind of create uniform data and how they're getting answers back and so forth, you're able to kind of create compliance and create unity among the brand and how it's being experienced by customers on the end. So, well, fantastic, man. What's the website for everybody to check out? EZee Assist?
It's www.ezeeassist, EZEEASSIST.com. You'll find all of our information there, and feel free to reach out for a demo.
Is there any book a demo directly off the site there?
You can book a demo directly off the site, but I'm active on LinkedIn. You'll find my information on there. Drop me a message. I think that's the easiest way.
Absolutely. Everybody, this whole industry is very active on the LinkedIn ecosystem. So yeah, we'll post that as well. And learn about us, outsourceaccess.com. You can go and learn about our franchise support system for franchisors and franchise virtual assistant program for franchisees. And our 2-question exercise, which we can send your way. If you're seeing this on social, you can comment scale down below, and we'll send you our 2-question exercise. And over 700 tasks organized by marketing, operations, customer service, sales. So you can kind of scroll through and say, what can virtual assistants actually do? And we can share that with you. So, well, thanks, man. Look forward to continue to see your journey ahead in IFA 2027.
Likewise, and thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Take care, everybody.